Sorry for the delay. Everyone had a little bit of a scheduling issue, but we made it. How you been, Brandon? Let's just kind of,
just good. Been pretty busy, but it's slowing down now. I'm excited about it. How about you? Excited to be back on the live after missing last week.
yeah, pretty good. Stressful. I guess we can start with Saturday while we wait for more people to start joining in. People had just decided let's take Two Plane Sports time, and they were doing some other lives on other spaces. But hopefully you enjoyed theirs and you're coming over here. Make sure you're liking the stream, subscribing. We're not that far away from 6,000.
Yeah, we're like 70 away, 65 away, something like that.
For sure. Help us out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Share the stream. Let's keep growing this community. Yeah, I guess we can start with Saturday. Because personally, I was a little stressed going through the first quarter, even through the first half. And then the second half started, and all that stress went away pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard not to be stressed. It definitely had the feel in the early going of the Sooners of old. Like I thought it was going to be a 52-45 game the way it was going. Really a couple of blunders there in the secondary that resulted in long touchdowns for the Cyclones. But when you really get down to look at it and you hold them scoreless for the final 39 minutes of the game, they get like 85 total yards of total offense in the second half. The Sooners rebounded and played how you expected them to play the final 40 minutes of the game, which was good. But you can't play 20 minutes of shitty ball against Texas on Saturday.
I agree. What was most concerning to me was the run game and how well Iowa State was able to run the ball. And we talked about it in our pregame. Like they were able to run the ball pretty well, even through the first few games, especially against Oklahoma State, because Oklahoma State is just a really bad football team, especially this year. Like our bias aside, they just suck. But they were good against the run. I think it's like if you look at their running backs, they were just like really stocky dudes that had a low center of gravity, tough to move, heavier guys. Now, that's not to say that kind of getting into the next week, like that's something that I'm gonna be watching during the Red River. Like how well are we gonna stop the run? Because that running back for Texas is good. And if you give him any opportunities, he's going to take it to the house. Like at this point, he's on pace to be better than Bijan Robinson was last year, just statistically.
He's averaging almost 7 yards a carry and just got about 600 yards. He's at 597 going into this game. So, to have like almost 600 yards through 5 games is very impressive. I think what the Cyclones did well on Saturday, if you watch the run game, what was working for them, they kind of made it a priority, and they blocked Danny Stutzman a little differently. They sent a tackle at him or a tight end at him almost every single play right away. Instead of getting the closest guy to him, they went and took out Danny Stutzman because he's been, just destroying people in the backfield and doing all sorts of stuff. I thought they did a nice job on Danny Stutzman to start. I think that helped them. But again, I think Oklahoma, we adapted and eventually shut their shit down, which was good. And really, if you look, the first drive was a pick six, fantastic. Second drive, there was something happened in the secondary there where they busted a long one. Then the third drive, the one they got a field goal on. If Kendall Dolby can make a sack on the quarterback there on third down, they don't score at all.
Yeah. The 2 touchdowns they had, it was a safety play. It was very similar to the one of the other touchdowns that was given up this year, where I think it was against SMU. I'm probably wrong in how I'm remembering, but Billy Bowman also, in a previous game before Iowa State, was going for the interception when he could have just tried to lay out the receiver or knock the ball out. So it's really just a matter of discipline there. I think sometimes they get so locked in on the ball that and it's good route running by the wide receiver too. Like he's going where the safety isn't gonna be to hit him. So you gotta respect that, but if the safety just takes a glance of where the receiver's going to be, he's got a much better chance of at least knocking the ball out. And I think that's where Reggie Pearson excels compared to the other safeties on the roster, because he'll just lay him out. Like he doesn't care. He's okay with I'm sure he would love to get that pick and try to take it to the house, but you can tell that dude is more focused on just trying to absolutely smoke someone when they're trying to go for the ball than trying to get the ball itself. So I think it's a nice balance, but that's also something that this weekend I hope Reggie Pearson gets to start, because very similar, and it's gonna, opening up old wounds against the Florida team. For anyone that saw that Florida documentary on Netflix, like that's a clip that's gone around social media where that defensive back is talking about
Major, right?
Yeah, he doesn't care about where that ball is. He's going to send a message to that receiver. That's what I hope Reggie Pearson does this weekend, because I think that's going to be something that'll help set the tone for the Oklahoma defense and probably rattle at least Quinn Ewers a little bit, thinking, all right, these guys are going to be everywhere on the field. Like, he's got to be a little bit more methodical on how he's going to distribute the ball.
Not only that, I think Reggie Pearson is probably the better, probably the best of the run-stopping safeties you have on this team. And I think if you want to beat Texas, I think it starts with stopping Javonte Cook, because that, like we've alluded to it already in the show, the dude's averaging 6 yards a carry, has 6 touchdowns. If he gets going and he's running crazy, averaging 7 or 8 yards a carry, we're going to be in a world of trouble, because that's going to open the play action game. That's going to open up Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, and that's one of the best receiving duos in the country. It all starts with stopping Javonte Cook, and I think Reggie Pearson at safety gives you the best chance to do that starting. Before we move on to all the Texas stuff, because there's a lot we want to talk about there, but can we talk about how special Peyton Bowen is again? It seems like every single week we're talking about Peyton Bowen, but that kid is incredible. He is so damn good.
And the engine he had, or the motor, he's not going to give up on a play. You're never going to see him just start jogging if it looks like the offensive player is going to take it to the house. This last weekend, this is the second wide open touchdown that he saved for Oklahoma that ended up just being a field goal.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody talks about the block punt, and rightfully so, because that's a flashy play. It leads to a safety. Should have been a touchdown. Trace Ford was doing the offensive favor. That's what he was doing by getting the safety. All that stuff, but or he was doing the defense a favor by getting the safety, putting the offense on the field, giving them a break. But that play where he runs down the Iowa State running back on the play at the middle, where if he's not there, it's a touchdown. It's plays like that. It reminds you of the play Trey Brown made in the Big 12 championship game. Obviously it wasn't quite as big as one Trey made just because of the moment stuff, but it's a touchdown saving play nevertheless, and it just seems like every single week he's there, he's doing something, he's showing out. He's gonna have to have a big weekend too. Saturday.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to count on it, because it's not gonna be an easy it's not an easy Texas offense. But going back again to the Iowa State game, and shout out to you guys. We're less than 10 minutes in, already have 50 people. These things keep growing every single week, and it's all thanks to you guys. Make sure you keep liking the video, subscribing, sharing the stream. Let's try to get to 150 today. Last week we were able to get to 162, and it's nowhere near as exciting as Red River. So help us out. Iowa State, though, was also, to me, not just obviously Oklahoma was able to battle back and make adjustments. You mentioned it, Danny Stutzman, they made an effort to put a body on him as quickly as possible in the run game. And I don't know if it was him or the coaches or mutually, they realized, hey, let's back Danny up a little bit, because he was for the most part, when they were having success on the offense, he was mostly lined up right there on the line of scrimmage with the rest of the defensive line. So it was easier to get to him, right? But once he moved back a little bit, made it so that they had to close that space between him, he is athletic enough and quick enough. He's going to beat them. And that's probably going to be something we're going to see out of Texas. And they have better athletes. Can they close that gap? Is Danny Stutzman going to be moving up and down in that front seven, more lining up as a linebacker? Is he going to line up as a pass rusher? So that'll be a fun little game that I'm sure Brent Venables and Sark are going to be watching, where those linebackers are lining up and how they're approaching pass rushing and run stopping. But what was big to me is the battle back, because it was a situation where you said it could have easily been these guys kind of get a little defeated, and they just, maybe the defense starts to take their confidence starts to, take a little bit of a hit, and the offense needs to back them up. And I think another part too, the defense was struggling at first, but the offense was able to help them stay in the game. And once the defense clicked, the offense didn't stop. So that's a complimentary football game that we haven't seen from Oklahoma, or we didn't see it last year for sure, and we haven't seen that for a while consistently. We're seeing it now. So going into this game, like that, I think that's good for OU. They were maybe not. It's not battle tested, but they now understand, especially the younger guys, what it's like to have to battle back against in college football. Because last year that was a huge problem. They didn't really know how to battle back from being down, and I don't think either of these teams really know how to fight back when they're down big quite yet. And hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully it's a pretty competitive game throughout, but or at least for Oklahoma's sake, you got to assume like the fight back is what's going to be the biggest thing going into Red River.
Yeah, no, man. I'm so excited. Yeah, like the way that they came back, they shut them down completely. The adjustments were perfect. They played complementary football, as you said. I mean, you look at they got when Iowa State had 20 points, you get the block punt. That obviously is a stop, and then you get the Gentry Williams interception. They turned both those into points. The block punt and the interception. One was a touchdown. I mean, that was the best way to end the half. It's 33-20 right there. It's 3rd and 2 for Iowa State. They're very much in the game, down 13 before halftime here. I think the Iowa State quarterback, looking back, he's a freshman. I think he made a freshman mistake because that play was bottled up completely. He shouldn't have thrown the ball in anyway. We'll take it. Gentry Williams, right spot. Comes down with the interception, sets up a very short field for Oklahoma. And then they score with very little time left on the clock to go 40-20 at halftime. That is a huge swinging point in the game. Yeah, it was awesome to see it.
27 is Gavin Sawchuk, for those in the chat asking. And then the first play, we didn't really talk about it. The pick six by Billy Bowman.
The third play.
Their third play, sorry. I've watched it back like 3 or 4 times just because it moved so quickly. Like I didn't really expect that big of a play so early in the game. It's probably me being stupid, but that was I'm sure like when Brent Venables watched it, and I mean I'm not gonna pretend like I know what I'm talking about or I'm a trained eye when I'm looking at a football defense, but it just looked like all 11 guys saw the same thing. They perfectly passed off the zone. Like Billy Bowman was able to undercut that ball, but even if he wasn't able to get it, there was a guy right behind the receiver to knock the ball out of his hands if you happen to get to it. Like the defense in that first series on the pick six just looked like they were perfectly in sync. Every guy, the linebackers, like you saw, like Jaron Kanik was kind of up a little higher, and then I don't know if he felt Danny Stutzman or if it's just part of the like how the play develops. He starts to come inside to go after the quarterback as Danny's like staying up at that higher level. It was really fun to watch.
It was cool. Yeah, I mean that quarterback forced 2 interceptions, but take it. Hopefully we can disguise some shit like that for Quinn too, because we'll take any turnovers we can get in that one. Turnovers are going to decide the game. I think if going into Texas, I think turnovers, sacks, penalties. Those are 3 things you can't have and you want to get in a game like this against. This is probably the best Texas team we've seen in a long time. They're actually pretty solid. So you have to avoid those 3 things, and I think you win the game this week on stopping the run game and getting the run game to establish for us. Because Dylan Gabriel, he's shown when he's on schedule, when his reads are there, when the offensive line protects, he's as good as anybody in the country. But and this is the same with any quarterback. But if he's got some pressure in his face, if it's not right on schedule, that's where he starts to get a little sporadic, a little hurried or rushed, if you will, and that's when it's not great plays. But I mean, it's in that you prevent that by establishing a run game, and that I guess if you want to nitpick anything on the Oklahoma offense, I guess it's been the run game. I mean, it's been good, but it's not been great, I guess, and you want to see it be pretty great in this one.
It looked better last game. It definitely improved, and
it did.
I guess, have to suck it up a little bit and go ahead and admit I was probably a little bit wrong with Marcus Major. Still think that Javonte Barnes is a more talented guy, but for the time being, Marcus Major is clearly doing a good job of keeping hold of that number 1 spot in the backfield. I think Tawee Walker still needs to get a little bit more snaps. Like every time he touches the ball, he's making a play, at least to not lose any yards, and most of the time it's to gain a few, if not big. Like that last play of the game for him. It was a huge run that was just negated by a dumb holding call.
Yeah.
Like, just let him go. Like Tawee wasn't going to get touched by that defender. So and he's a bulldozer. Like he just doesn't go down. So that's going to be again something important, like you mentioned, because these Texas guys they can tackle. It's not the same Texas that we're used to now. They're still Texas. They're not bad,
perfect. They're better than we've seen, but they're not perfect. They're not unbeatable. You look at Texas, and I think what a lot of Texas fans are arguing, or just Oklahoma not fans are arguing, is that Oklahoma hasn't really played anybody, and that is fair. It is. We have not played anybody elite, or not played anybody great. Whereas Texas has played Alabama on the road and beaten them. That is a great win. But outside of that win for Texas at Alabama, which again is a fantastic win, they've not really played anybody either. Kansas, I think, is a good football team, but Kansas didn't have Jalen Daniels. They played string bean. He's probably one of the worst quarterbacks in the country, for being fair. And that game was a 1-score game late into the third quarter. I think they scored a touchdown to go up 12 with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and then from there they obviously pulled away. They were tied with Wyoming going into the fourth quarter at home with the Wyoming team that I have said was fantastic on the show. But then you look at the schedule; they beat Texas Tech, and then they have a bunch of close wins against not very good teams. So I think I may have overrated Wyoming a little bit. Texas has played one good team, is what I'm getting to, and Oklahoma has played none, I guess. But that's the knock that Texas fans have right now is we haven't played anybody, and I would say they haven't really either outside of Alabama.
There's still that little bit of Texas being what we've gotten used to over the last decade or so, where they love playing down to their competition. Like you mentioned, like going into the fourth quarter tied to Wyoming. Yeah, they're good, but wasn't that in Texas?
Yeah.
Like you have home field advantage. They're able to overcome it for 3 quarters, and then they just, you out-athleted them essentially in the fourth. Because you have more depth, you have more talent throughout your depth chart, and you just, overall a better team.
And I think the same can be said this past weekend for them at Kansas. That's a 1-score game, very late into the game, and I think they scored with 2 minutes left in the third quarter to go at 12, and then from there they out-athleted them. They have more 5-stars than you. They have better talent than you, and it showed late. But Kansas with Billy Bean or whatever the hell his name is not a very good team, and they were right there.
Well, and we'll be able to compare how these two teams are going to do against Kansas this year, luckily. So we will be playing Kansas later in the year, and it is going to be in Lawrence.
And with Jalen Daniels, likely.
Maybe. Apparently he has just chronic back issues, so we might play Jalen Daniels, or we might play Bean. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah, I'm calling him Billy Bean, but I don't think that's his actual first name.
It's not. But okay, I'm sure people are wanting us to start talking about Texas.
Do you see what Jimmy said about Wyoming too? I guess they run a backup quarterback in that game too to take them 10-10. But here's the Wyoming schedule real quick, just because again I was talking good about them and I don't know how great they are now. They beat Texas Tech by 2. I think that's a good win in overtime, the first game of the season. They beat Portland State by 14. Then they have Texas where they're tied going into the fourth. Then they beat App State by 3, and they beat New Mexico by 9. So it's not like they're not a world beater either out here, and that is Texas's second best win. If you don't want to count Kansas, but they've not really done it either outside of Alabama.
Yeah, and honestly, I know we said the run game might be something that's concerning, but to me, the most concerning part is kicking and punting. Oklahoma in this last game went for fourth down quite often, unless they really didn't need to. Really towards the end of the game is when the punter came out, when the game was basically open, and it wasn't necessary to keep trying to open up that gap on the scoreboard. He did better than his previous showings, because those first couple punts he had, and maybe we're obviously going from a guy that I can't remember, was Turk drafted in the NFL?
UDFA.
Okay. But, he got an opportunity in the NFL and might get more opportunities in the NFL later on. And then kicking, I don't think Schmidt is bad, but he needs to be put in the right spot. He needs to be on the right side, center to the right hash. He can't be on the left hash because he's going to miss left, which he did. I think it's more of he's got to be in the spots he likes. He's not going to be, you can't. He's not a kicker you trust on all parts of the field.
I certainly hope it doesn't come down to a kick for us kicking it. I don't have the world of confidence in Schmidt right now.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, he also hasn't been tested. Like this last game was the first time he actually had a kick from anywhere that's considered deep. I think the kick he missed that was on the left hash. Yeah, it was like a 30-something yarder, and at that point in the game and in the season, that was his season long. But then he made a even longer.
Made a 46, yeah,
on the other side of the field. So I think it's literally just maybe the first one was also like rust because he hasn't had to do that in game. But I think if you look at how he kicks, it's if he's on the left side, he's going to miss left. Like he's not going to be a guy that's going to shank right.
And he does this good thing where he hits a 46-yard field goal, and then the ensuing kickoff he pokes out of bounds. Like it's just the guy just couldn't string it. It just couldn't have one that he just couldn't do two good things in a row.
It's just for those of you that play golf, and maybe it's just a me thing. If I hit a good drive, never hitting a good second shot. Going ahead and banking on that. I know best thing I'm gonna do is par. But yeah, I mean let's get a little bit more into this Texas talk. So,
big week, boys. Big week.
Huge week. Let's cheers to that. Cheers. You're already downing it.
My bad, bud.
But clearly a very good Texas team. Let's start on the offense. I think, to me, this is very much so Sark versus Venables. Who is going to drop the better game plan for each other? Because I think when you look at the OU offense versus the Texas defense, like they're both going to make their mistakes and they both can make big flashy plays. But you expect the Brent Venables defense to lock people down. And just like on the other hand, you expect the Sark defense to dice people up and score a lot. So it's really going to be who can get the upper hand on the other guy. I haven't been able to look back because I was kind of busy today, but I'm sure Sark and Venables have been able to game plan for each other in the past when Venables was at Clemson and Sark was at Bama. Like how did those matchups go? Maybe someone in the chat can tell us, or if you're looking it up, I'd love to know. Like I'm sure they have experience game planning against each other. Maybe it looked like it was going to game plan against each other being in the playoffs against one another. I would assume that this is going to be a very fun battle, and they both talked about each other in the or I guess Sark I know talked about Venables in his press conference. He said, I got to prepare for Venables. He has all types of defenses out of one look, very much how people talk about Lincoln Riley and Sark having a ton of plays out of one formation. Those guys are going to have. It's going to be a fun chess match to watch, even for people, at least like myself, that don't really know 100% of what the hell's going on all the time. You can just tell when something good is going to happen and when something bad could happen.
I said it a little bit earlier, and I think this whole game, this is what I'm banking on, is the run game for both sides. Because I think Texas has probably the best receiver duo in the country. But they also have a very good running back, Javonte Cook. If he averages 6 or 7 yards to carry against Oklahoma all game, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Because if we can't stop the run, that pass game is going to be wide open. Those dudes are going to be all over the place. They're going to score a lot of points. We're going to be in trouble. And then vice versa for us on offense. If we can't establish a run game, and they've got some dudes on that D line. They've got multiple dudes with 2 sacks or 1.5 sacks. They on that defensive front for them. And if we can't get the run game going, and we're in second and third and long situations all game, it's going to be a long day for DG in the offense. That being said, I think we can. I think we will be able to establish the run. Texas defense gives up about 95 yards a carry, a game. And I think if Oklahoma can hit around 100 yards, and with Dylan out there passing the ball, with passing the ball the way he is, we should be able to score points on them. And I think this is the game we're going to see some fun Jackson Arnold packages and shit. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And Joel asked a question if either of us are going to make it to the game. I'm stuck in Arizona.
I will be in Dallas.
In a bad way.
I will be in Dallas. I haven't got a ticket yet. We're going to look. But if not, I'll be at, I think we're going to Katie Ice House. Something like that is a thing.
I think that's where we always
Yeah.
went back in
Katy
the day.
Trail, something like that is what it's called. Yeah. So if you're in Dallas, come to the Katy Trail on game day. We'll be there. Or I'll be there.
Bama loses. Here's Sark versus Venables was the 2017 national championship. Lane Kiffin had left for the FAU job. Bama lost 35-31. Hey, that's encouraging. I'm sure both have gotten better since then, but Venables seems to have had his number in the past. So, and one thing that, and I heard it in Venables' press conference earlier today, Quinn Ewers isn't respected enough as someone that can run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he's not a guy like a Jalen Daniels or a fucking Jimmy Dean Bean or, other like rushing quarterbacks. But he can make plays on his feet. I mean, this last game that they had versus Kansas, I think he scored like a 20-yard running play. So he can make plays on his feet. But if there's anyone that's going to beat you on their legs, I think that's the guy you got to opt for. Because he can throw a very good ball. His deep ball issues that he had last year are not the same this year. And maybe it's because they haven't been tested offensively quite yet. They haven't really faced any top-tier defenses by any means. So I think Oklahoma's going to give him a bigger challenge. And we'll see how he reacts to more pressure in his face. But if you're going to have to pick how he's going to beat you, I'd much rather see him try to beat you with his legs than with his arm.
100%. And I think Oklahoma might be one of the best secondaries that they played all season. I know they played Alabama. Alabama has Kool-Aid. Outside of that, like we don't really know who's on that roster right now. And I think the secondary for Oklahoma is gonna create some problems, especially if we can get that run game stopped. And you want to talk about running quarterbacks on the flip side. Dylan Gabriel has been doing some shit with his legs this season. I think it's a little bit under the radar. I think across the country, OU fans have obviously seen it. We're looking at it, but if Dylan can get loose, if we can get some design running plays, some option plays to help get that run game spark for Oklahoma, because again, I think this entire game comes down to establishing a run game. Both sides, and if we can establish it with DG to start the game, I'm good with it. Because that Iowa State game, he's running over linebackers to get in the end zone, and we'll see.
I texted you after that first run. Those run plays by him to get in the end zone were very Baker-esque.
Oh yeah,
you saw him finish, lower to shoulder to put the linebacker down, and not so much that, but the attitude.
I was gonna say his shit talking after it. He
was in their face
on that second one. He went out of his way to chest bump one of those Iowa State defenders. Or just rub shoulders with him. And I was like, all right, DG. I didn't know he was like that, but it was cool to see. It's good to see him riding high, riding this kind of confidence, talking his shit going into this weekend. He needs to be at his best this weekend. I think he knows that, and I think he's clearly ready. He's dialed in. He's shit talking, man. If he can. And it's shot at the O-line, too. Because, this Texas D-line is going to be the best we've seen so far, no doubt. But that ball he threw to Nick Anderson on the third touchdown of the game to make it 21-10, put it right on the money. But he had 55 minutes to throw the ball. It was gorgeous. If we can give him even half that time against Texas, I think the guys will be open. Comes down, yeah. It's all about running and protecting in this one. Both sides.
Well, and I think it's a good segue to the Oklahoma offense. Dylan Gabriel, like you said, seems to be hitting his stride, getting the most out of his confidence right now is perfect, because this is his first Red River. I think it's kind of being overlooked right now because so many of the national media is talking about how much Texas is going to beat Oklahoma by, and how dumbass Brandon Walker from Barstool Sports.
Right now, dude.
I think their podcast is actually pretty entertaining, but that dude thinks he's actually good at talking about football. His last year he hyped up A&M all season, 5-7. He was talking about Miami being a legit team last season, terrible last season.
The best sides in college football.
Talked about Texas being a good team last season. They were only one game better than Oklahoma. People like to forget that people like to act like Texas was some sort of greatness last year. They were 7-5. Like they weren't that much. If it's literally came down to Red River and Oklahoma not having their quarterback, and now they do. Going into this year, Dylan Gabriel, I think is going to be hopefully at his peak of being confident and cocky at the same time. Like how we grew to love Baker Mayfield. He was able to do what he did because of the swagger he had. Then the wide receivers are also turning it on at the perfect time. Nick Anderson, like he's been on the roll these last couple of games.
Nico's balling.
Makes huge plays. Jaden Gibson might not get as many touches as some people would like, but when he's in the game, he makes plays, big contested catches. And Joel Anthony's still the big explosive guy. I mean, Drake Soups is going to do Drake Soups things and be
Jalil Farouk had a quiet 81 yards against Iowa State. The whole receiving core has made plays. I mean, that touchdown from Jaden Gibson was stupid. A 4th and 7, breaking tackles. He probably just walked into the end zone at some point, just bigger. You can't stop me type thing. I think the core of Oklahoma's receivers, our nucleus, is a little deeper and stronger than Texas is. I think Texas has the top 2 receivers in the game. I mean, there's no doubt. In this particular game, they have the best 2 receivers, but outside of those 2, I like Oklahoma's depth a lot more at the receiver position than what Texas has. Brennan Thompson. I mean, Brennan Thompson is a guy that I don't think DG's ever thrown to a guy quite that fast on a deep ball, and I think it showed on the 1-to-1 because if he can put it out there a little further, and even if it's a walk-in touchdown, but Brennan Thompson is moving. Like, he's fast.
Yeah. And I think it's also anticipation because you don't know how fast a guy like that is until you see him on the actual football field versus a real defense. And yeah, I agree. Like he's another, like Brent Venables after the game said he's faster than fast.
That's a ball DG could have thrown, and you've been like, holy shit, that's going to be good. That's money. And then he could have just, been like, how is he moving? He's so fast.
Facts. Shout out Jacob Matthews. He said, I need them to send PB on every Texas punt. I think you're gonna see quite a few attempts at blocking those punts. He's got 2 on the year. It's hard enough to get 1. And like Brandon said earlier, that could have easily been a touchdown if Trace Ford didn't rewind to his Oklahoma State years and have a
that was a heads-up play. He knew what he was doing there. He didn't want the defense to be on the field again. Giving him a break. I mean, heads-up play.
I agree. We were texting about it afterwards, and neither of us were mad that happened because, like you said, the defense would have had to go out there for a second series
right away. Yeah,
immediately. So, and the offense was able to do good right after that, and like they kept the ball for a decent amount of time to give the boys a breather.
Hit a field goal that drive. You turned it into points, and then obviously the next possession you get a pick and touchdown to go in the half, put the game out of reach. But this is the game too. Mark it down. We're gonna see it. It's gonna be a close game somewhere in the third quarter. The Jackson Arnold package is going to come back this game. And the first 2 or 3 times, it's going to be the snap right at the middle. He's going to run it up the middle. That's all we put on tape. That's all we're going to do at first. And I think somewhere in the third quarter, it's going to be a 1-score game, one way or the other. And they're going to bust out the Jackson Arnold approach on a 3rd and short. And everyone's going to sell out for the run. And he's going to hit the Jackson Arnold jump pass, and it's going to score a ball. This is the week you bust out shit like that. And plays like that that Texas is not going to be ready for. Those are the little plays, the game within a game that can win you this game against Texas. And I think this is the week we see stuff like that.
Jack mentioned something that has been kind of a topic on the internet and on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call that app now. Greg Sankey's going to be at the OU Texas game. I'm assuming for the first time.
That is
at least in a long time. Not the Big 12 commissioner. I mean, I don't really give a shit that the Big 12 commissioner is not going to be there. I don't really think he needs to be there. And he said it. He was asked about it earlier in the week. This is Greg Sankey's future, so I think it's good that he's there. It'll be fun. I'm sure for him, he'll get to see a little bit of the environment that he's about to bring into his conference. And, I mean, you guys see it on the thumbnail. I don't know about you, Brandon. I'm sure, but I have a feeling you'll agree. This is the best rivalry, not just in college football, but in all of sports. I think Oklahoma fans legitimately despise Texas fans and vice versa, and the teams when they're on the field, regardless of if they were friends in high school and maybe they're teammates in the NFL, they just don't like each other. In that atmosphere, I hope the guys on game day, Kirk Herbstreit is calling the game. I hope the rest of the guys, Desmond Howard, Pat McAfee, Lee Corso, who's Reese Davis. I hope they're all able to stick around after their show and experience it. Especially I don't think Pat McAfee's ever been there, so I think he's a big Texas guy right now. But if he sees that atmosphere and Oklahoma's able to pull it out, I think you're going to start making believers out of guys that have microphones and a huge followings after that game.
100%. I mean, this is the first Red River rivalry in a long time where you feel like the winner of this game has a legitimate chance to finish to finish the season undefeated, and they're right there in playoff talk, national championship talk. I mean, and that sounds crazy, but I mean, if you look at the rest of the schedule, you've got Kansas, who I think is a good team at Lawrence, which I think could be a tricky game. Brigham Young was a game I was a little scared of at first. They don't look very good. If Oklahoma can get past Texas this weekend, I think that's where you have you're not going to talk about it or not going to say it, I guess, but I mean, you're going to have that little inkling, that little feeling, like maybe, this is the year you run the table.
And I think for
at
the
least regular season.
Yeah, for the loser of the game as well, as long as the game is competitive, here's a good chance that for the first time in this college football playoff era, we could see two Big 12 teams, because the SEC doesn't look as dominant as they have. I think the Big 10 is going to beat each other up. Like Penn State's got to play. Penn State still hasn't shown that they can beat Michigan or Ohio State. I think Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, if Michigan runs away with that game again at the end of during the regular season, they might not respect Ohio State as much this year, and then you might have one Pac-12 team at the end. Like, there's a good chance, like, whoever wins this game, as long as the loser of this game stays undefeated for the rest of the year, this is the Big 12 championship, and it could just be a vice versa result, just like the Kyler Murray year. We lost Red River, we kicked their ass in the Big 12. But these two teams have legit chances of both being in the playoffs, assuming they stay close for both games, again, and assuming that it happens as I just outlined it. And shout out to Jack Wright for the donation.
Jack, you're the man. This is going to be a fun Red River.
I don't know if he meant to put that with his donation, but screw Michigan. I think Brumball would agree. I think Brum's kind
shout
of
out Brum.
Brum is a closet Ohio State fan. He's always picking Ohio State in everything that we talk about Big Ten.
I don't know. I mean, it might be. If Texas wins by 3, Oklahoma will be top 5. I don't agree with that, but that would be cool.
I don't think Oklahoma goes up in rankings, but I don't think if it's a close game, I don't think either one gets really hurt or impacted. Now, if the one school blows the other one away, and I think if you look at betting, or if you're someone that looks at betting right now, like almost all of the money is on Texas to cover, to win. I don't know
what is the line at right now. Is it 6.5?
It did go up to 6.5 at some point this week. I don't know what it is at this exact moment. I can check, but it opened at 4.5.
I thought it opened at 5, but maybe it was 4.5.
Yep.
Well, those people are hammering the Texas money. Yes, Keaton.
Basically, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the defenses on each side. Let's start with the Texas defense, because you kind of alluded to it earlier in our conversation. We were talking about the offenses. The floor is yours. I mean, you were doing some digging on them. What'd you find?
Well, they've got some dudes on the D line, which is again why I'm talking about the run. The run game. If you just look at the numbers, the run game is what is going to decide this game, both on both sides of the ball. But they've got multiple players on that defensive line. Tavondre Sweat is the one you think of the most at DT. He's having a pretty solid season. He's got a sack already as a defensive tackle. But then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 5 defensive linemen with at least 1 sack on the season. And you look at what they did against Alabama, which I don't think this Alabama team is as good as they are in the past, but they sacked Jaden Milroe 5 times. I mean, that's impressive. That defensive front for Texas is pretty solid. Ford, their middle linebacker, is pretty decent. He's got about 35 tackles on the year. Anthony Hill, it's a name that a lot of Oklahoma fans know. Didn't go our way, but he's playing quite well for them as a freshman backer too. They've got some guys on that defensive front 7 that I think are pretty solid. Which again, if you can establish a run game, you stop that down, because that secondary for Texas, I think you can exploit. I don't think it is necessarily fantastic. I don't think it's that great. I think they're winning games off of their front seven getting after quarterbacks, their front seven making plays. But even with that being said, they're giving up 95 yards a game, and that's with playing Alabama as their only really sound team. I think Oklahoma is at least the second best team Texas has played so far. They can be the best team that Texas will see in their schedule. If Oklahoma can run the ball, we're going to be able to pass all over them.
Keaton, it's Tequila. To answer your
question.
I agree. That defensive line for Texas is going to be a battle for this offensive line, and it's also going to be a prove it moment for that offensive unit. I think they performed a lot better last week when we saw Troy Everett in that left guard. I mean, we saw Big Sexy in at some points. We saw Caden Green there on the left side of the ball. I think that's the side of the offensive line where there seems to be more questions, but luckily we have a lefty, so it's not his blind side. I mean, I'd much rather prefer that the entire unit is pretty solidified, especially going into this game. But they looked better, I think, last week against a good Iowa State team and a good Iowa State defense. The biggest one, and I wasn't paying attention because I was thinking about pouring my drink for a little bit there, was T'Vondre Sweat.
T'Vondre Sweat, yeah.
He's I think
big boy.
Just like Corleone in the Cincinnati game. That, to me, he's going to be the X factor for this defense. Yeah, Jalen Ford is very good. Yeah, I mean, Anthony Hill's playing well, especially for a true freshman, and those guys on the edge are playing well. But the guy in the middle is going to be their difference maker for Texas. If Oklahoma can make sure he's not that big of an impact on this game, you will have a very good chance Dylan Gabriel will stay clean in the pocket for the most part until they send blitzes. Then it's going to be how can he make plays on his feet. But Sweat, to me, is the X factor for Oklahoma, especially because, I mean, through the first 4 games at least, and a little bit in the 5th game, the interior of the line was the biggest question. I think the tackles have played well for most of the season, if not all of it. Maybe they've had their hiccups, but the interior has been the biggest question mark for Oklahoma. Can they handle Sweat in the middle? The second level, I don't think really has that much of an upper hand on Oklahoma. These wide receivers are very good for OU, like we said earlier, and they haven't been tested vertically when it comes to their defense, mainly because they've been able to get the rush against the opponents they have. If Oklahoma can keep Dylan clean, are those defensive backs, is that second level of the Texas defense good enough to prevent Oklahoma from making those big plays they've loved to do so far this year?
I don't think so. Oklahoma should pass all of it. I'm trying to look up Texas right now as far as pass defense because they're not elite at it.
Trey Brown is the same Ellinger as Peyton Bowen is to Quinn Ewers. If Peyton Bowen is going to be Quinn Ewers' worst nightmare for the year, I would love that to happen. I think Ran Rodriguez here is a Texas fan. I know I've seen his name before, and he's usually rooting for Texas or putting horns up. Would love to hear some of your thoughts on this game, since most of us are Oklahoma fans, and I think for the most part, believe it's going to be a close game. But what I've seen from Texas fans, and maybe it's just what I've seen, most Texas fans think OU has little chance against them. And I think because they're still riding the high of the 49-0 last year. Fair. But it's not the same Oklahoma team. Not defensively, especially not offensively, because we were basically playing with 10 men.
Yeah. So Texas defense, their secondary is 36th in the country in terms of pass yards allowed per game. That is, again, if you can establish a run game, that's where you can exploit that. We've got the dudes on the receiving core to beat them there, and we've got the quarterback to do it. But again, and I that's why I semi agree with Jacob Reeves here. With the game hinges on DG's play, because I mean, if DG plays well, we play well, we win the game. But I don't think DG is going to have a day if we're averaging 1 yard a carry, 2 yards a carry, and we're in 2nd and 12, 3rd and 13s all game long. Because then it's just that's asking a lot for any quarterback. I mean, you might be able to make one or two of those a game, but if you're consistently in a 3rd and 8 and beyond, uh, that's a tall task. That's where you want to have the opposing offense in.
I agree.
And yeah, Jack 36 playing backup quarterbacks, and it's fair. Now I'm going to look at what Kansas did to them passing the ball this weekend.
It wasn't amazing. I watched like 95% of that game basically until the end, and Bean just wasn't able to hit his targets. He had guys open, and
He's not very good.
Yeah, sometimes when he did hit them, they were dropping the ball on him. It wasn't great for them in the air, but he made one huge play because they were able to run the ball, and at some point they just stopped paying attention to that part of the game and tried to do it all over the air. I think that was dumb to call by them, but what the hell do I know, I guess. But let's talk about a little bit about the Oklahoma defense. Through the first 5 games, one of the best defenses in the country. Only letting
scoring defense in the country,
scoring
at least. Yeah.
Only letting up 9.5 points per game.
I think it jumped to 10.
Did it jump to 10?
It was 8.5, and Iowa State scored 20, so it's like 10.5 or something like that. But either way, it's still top 5 in the country in terms of scoring defense.
Very few points that they have allowed this year. Only 5 touchdowns, if I have it correctly.
Iowa State 2.
1 against SMU.
SMU 1. Tulsa 2, so that'd be 5.
Yeah, 5 all season. I don't expect that to stay the same. I hope I am pleasantly surprised, but I have to respect what Texas has done so far. I don't think that is going to stay true in this game. They're probably gonna score a few touchdowns on Oklahoma, but the key and kind of going back to what we were talking about versus Iowa State, Danny Stutzman. Can he be the impact guy he's been all year? Because if you let him do what he's done, especially if you kind of compare what he's done when Oklahoma has had those huge wins against, like Arkansas State and not Cincinnati. What was the game? Was it Cincinnati the game before Iowa State?
But no, before Iowa State, yeah, it was Cincinnati.
Okay, whenever he had 17 tackles, I can't remember.
SMU.
Was it SMU? Well, he's run wild a couple times, so it's tough to.
He got a parking ticket that day too, according to Jaron Canick's Instagram story.
If you let him do what he's done, then it's going to be tough to stop this Oklahoma defense from just doing whatever they want on them.
I mean, 100%. Because Stutz is the heart and soul of your defense if you're Oklahoma, and that is going to be the most game plan player on our defense for Texas, and rightfully so. I think he's the best college. I think he's the best linebacker in the country, and I think most people on this show agree, or most of our viewers agree. The guy he's incredible. So Stutz is going to be Stutz. He's going to bring it. He has to bring it. But you're going to win the game based off of your role players around him. You're going to need somebody on the defensive front to make a play or a couple of plays. I think PJ in little action has shown. I think he had a sack against Iowa State, pretty big. Peyton Bowen is obviously Peyton Bowen. We mentioned Reggie Pearson at the top of the show. I think Reggie Pearson is a guy that if there's ever a game for him to start or at least play heavy minutes in it, especially in the beginning of the game, it's this one because he is going to be your best run-stopping safety. He's going to be your biggest hitter. Like you said, just even if they catch the ball, just go up there and fucking hit somebody. Just lay it on somebody. It's going to be the guys like that. Deshaun McCullough, we got a comment here. He looked fantastic against Iowa State. He made a couple plays in the backfield. Danny Stutzman is going to be Danny Stutzman. You need players around him to elevate to his level, or not even at his level, but they need to be close. And I think guys like PB and Reggie Pearson specifically, I mentioned PJ Adebore on the defensive front. You're going to need guys like that to go out there and make plays. Gentry Williams, keep balling, man. I mean, keep doing your thing because for Woody and Gentry are going to get tested more than they have all season, and they can't do it by themselves because I don't care who the corner is. If Quinn Ewers has 15 seconds back there, those two receivers on the outside with Mitchell and Worthy, they're going to win. It doesn't matter. I think Gentry and I think Woody can hold their own. I think they can be there for a little bit of time, but you have to get after Quinn Ewers because those guys on the outside are too good.
And key there is also interrupting their timing, getting physical with them at the line. I think you have to respect their speed because they are speedsters. When you try to put their game down to a very basic term. They are guys that are going to, they're burners. So play physical with them at the line. But I do agree with Gentry. I think him and Woody are probably up there when you look at defensive back duos in the country, especially with how they played this year so far. Gentry, he's had a little bit of like getting nicked up in games where he has to step out for for a series or two to deal with whatever injury he has to deal with at the time. If he can stay basically healthy for the entire game, I think it's going to be tough for him to not have a good game and be a big impact on this for this defense, because not only can he cover a guy and he has the speed to keep up with these two receivers for Texas, but he's a very physical tackler, good tackler in the open field, which is going to be key because if you remember that, I'm sure we all remember against the Texas game where we came back and Caleb Williams had to save our asses. The first play of the game was Xavier Worthy taking a screen play to the house. And it's because our open field tackling was god awful.
Who was that that got stiff armed to the ground? He plays at Miami now or something.
Jaden Davis.
Yeah, just got. Oh my.
Yeah.
The shittiest start of all time to a Red River game. That was brutal.
That was tough for sure. But that's going to be key. But then we also going from the outside in. Our guy Rand here just mentioned it. Jonathan Brooks is.
We also mentioned he is a Texas fan too now. So I mean,
he is a Texas fan. So we
appreciate you listening too. I don't know why you listen to this channel, but shout out, nice.
Shout out to you, Rand. I think he's a guy. He's a running back right now that you could say is kind of slept on when you look at him.
Incredibly slept on. He has 600 yards through 5 games. With five touchdowns. I mean, the dude is playing at an exceptional level.
Yeah, we said it earlier. He's on pace to have a better season this year than Bijan did last year. And Bijan was a first-round draft pick in the NFL. Some people question that decision by the Falcons, but at the end of the day, he was a first-round draft pick. He's going to be a guy to stop, and it's going to go back to the defensive line. Can you close those holes for him? And the linebackers, I guess. It's a front seven. Can that front seven make it hard for him to find those holes? I think, again, Danny Stutzman's going to be key there. Jaron Kanik. And we talked about Deshaun McCullough a little bit a second ago. I think if you look at last game and how he played, he made a few mistakes in the first game he played back from injury. Last game he was better. But you saw him, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but he played mostly up front like a linebacker. There were definitely times where he was back playing more like a safety. And he was playing well against tight ends. So if I can't remember the tight end's name right now, if he's healthy, because I know he got hurt in that last game for Texas, if their tight end is healthy, he's not going to have an easy game against a guy like Deshaun McCullough because he's just as athletic and fast, and he's going to make sure he's in his face all game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel for Justin Harrington because he started to play well, but I mean, Deshaun McCullough is a guy that I picked in preseason as a guy that could be Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year or Big 12 Newcomer of the Year, or whatever. He has all the tools, and I think now he's finally getting to show that. He made a couple plays in the Iowa State backfield that was good. I think against the Iowa State game, just all over the place here. Just as my brain's how it's working, I'm a little bit loose for already, but you dialed up a lot of really good corner blitzes or secondary blitzes, delayed blitzes. There was one third down where Key Lawrence, started off as looked like he was going to play pass coverage and ended up shooting right at the middle, got right through. I think plays like that. And Kendall Dolby was in the backfield 2 or 3 times. I don't think he got one sack, but he was right on Rocco Beck's ass 2 or 3 times and just missed it. Those are the plays that you have to continue to dial up against Texas because their front is pretty solid. But if you can confuse them, when Brent Venables is going to have some shit for that, and we've got the corners who can do it. Send those corner blitzes. Send those delayed safety blitzes. Get after him. I think it's going to help us.
And Rain just brought up a point about our ability, or OU's ability, to get pressure on the quarterback. And I'm comparing a quick stat versus comparing it to Alabama, because he made the point that he believes Alabama has better.
Yeah, I saw that.
Better rushers or pass rushers than Oklahoma. I think they might be a little bit more even than some people like to admit, because while Oklahoma hasn't looked amazing at rushing the passer, I think it's more so their ability to just finish at the quarterback, not so much that they can't get in the quarterback space. He and
another Texas fan in the chat here.
Yeah, Texas. Look, we've been talking about Texas being good. I just think, and also another thing that, especially for people that don't watch Oklahoma and Texas every year, or that don't know the rivalry or haven't felt that atmosphere on TV or in person, the games, the records, the stats in the first 5 games don't matter for shit. It's what's going to happen at the Cotton Bowl. I mean, going back to the Kyler Murray year, I think that year Oklahoma was supposed to beat them like handedly. That Texas team wasn't amazing. I mean, Sam Ehlinger was good, but he wasn't great, and they managed to pull it out. I mean, Oklahoma had to do a little bit of comeback. They had to start a comeback there to even be in that game come the end, and I mean, they weren't able to complete it, but the records don't fucking matter on Saturday.
100%. I mean,
who can do the best game? Who can do the best that day?
It sucked last year because Oklahoma didn't have a quarterback, but now we have a quarterback. It's a rivalry game. Everybody gets their best chance. Everybody wants to win this game so bad. You're gonna get the best out of both teams, and I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, and it's gonna be a dandy. I think Oklahoma wins. I really do. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the alcohol talking or my fandom, but I agree with you.
Some tequila and the lights, baby.
I do think that it's going to be a much closer game than some people think, especially the national media. I think they've gotten a little bit too Texas happy because, look, again, we've said it all show here. Texas is good. We're not at all saying that they're a terrible team. We're not comparing them to Oklahoma State by any means. Oklahoma State are actually garbage at football this year.
So bad.
But
if Houston wasn't in the Big 12, they would be the worst team in the Big 12.
For sure. But when Texas is good, people like to just crown them kings before they do anything relevant.
If they're halfway decent, people like to do that.
Yeah.
Not even good. If they're halfway decent.
And I think we're getting to that point where they're good, but they haven't. I mean, they beat Alabama, like you said earlier, and that's a very good win. But they haven't done anything before this season. And I think if you look at it, outside of the last 10-win season they had, they're actually decent going into the Red River game. And regardless of the result, most of the time they start falling off. They did last year. Weren't they like 4-1 going to Red River? And then they ended up
that season last year.
I'd have to remember. Maybe Rand remembers, but I'm pretty sure Texas was 4-1 going into Red River last year. Obviously kicked our ass. And then ended up only winning 7 games. So for both teams, it's going to be also important past Red River. And what can they do? Can they keep up the momentum? Can they keep up what they did in the first half of the season? We'll see.
Bobby, outside of Alabama, who has Texas played? See, that's the thing that I talked about at the beginning part of the show, because Texas has played Alabama, and we gave them that as a good win. But you're in a close-ass game with Kansas late in the third on a backup quarterback. You have Wyoming on a backup quarterback that has you tied at home 10-10 going into the fourth quarter. You act like Texas has just been on a world beater doing crazy shit. Like, y'all are in close games with teams who are not very good, too. I mean, Kansas with Billy Beam is not good. And they were right there till late in the third quarter. Wyoming had you tied into the fourth quarter. So I hate the schedule garbage thing. It's
a 5th ranked schedule because they played Alabama.
Because you played Alabama. And I just said, who have you played outside of Alabama?
And it's not like Oklahoma didn't schedule a good opponent for this year. Oklahoma was supposed to play Georgia, but obviously that had to get canceled because we're both joining the SEC next year, so that home-and-home series wouldn't have happened. But I think, like, we're trying to look at it objectively here, because obviously now
on a backup quarterback, Rand. See, I'm getting a little.
Yeah, I think Texas fans are starting to get a little bit
Billy
too big for the britches here.
Not that good.
Outside of the Bama game, Oklahoma and Texas,
nobody.
But both teams have done what they're supposed to do against bad teams.
Yeah.
Like, these Texas fans clearly haven't actually watched Oklahoma through the first 5 games. OU's taking care of bad teams, and they've beaten them how they're supposed to beat them. And Texas has done the same. And they played a good Alabama team. I don't think they played an elite Alabama team. They played one with a very new quarterback, but they beat them. And they beat them in Tuscaloosa, which I think is the most impressive part of it.
Again, great win. Fantastic win for Texas. And this, like we said, the entire show, this is a good Texas team. Probably the best Texas team we've played in a while. But if they want to talk about Wyoming being a great win on schedule, we just looked up their schedule. They beat App State by 3. They beat New Mexico by 8. Like, this is not a world beater in Wyoming.
Rand, you're making our point, bud. Oklahoma maybe hasn't played anyone, but outside of Bama, neither has Texas. And they've both taken care of what they're supposed to do. So, and if we're just looking at analytics, apparently this is supposed to be a very close game, according to any analytic that you
look at. Well, the
analytics
analytics actually favors Oklahoma for some reason. And they
all he's saying is you guys struggled. I'd love to actually see him say where Oklahoma has struggled, because I don't think Oklahoma struggled against
the
SMU.
game. The
SMU was
the 3-point
struggle
game
at the beginning.
Quarter. That's fair.
And then you can also
cover. You win by 17.
That's fine, but I think you on the same note, you got to acknowledge that Texas was tied to Wyoming for 3 quarters. That's what I keep saying.
And they were in a 1-score game late into the game with Kansas.
Both teams are prone to making mistakes. Neither has played.
Bama at night.
Both have played. I mean, you're literally just reiterating our point. Like you're too high on this Bama win, where we've already given them credit.
I think that's another thing that pisses me off about this whole Texas thing, and Texas has beat Alabama. These Texas fans act as if Oklahoma's going to take the field on Saturday, right? And they're going to line it up, and all of a sudden it's going to like flash in their head, or like a light bulb. It's going to go off in every Oklahoma player's head and be like, "Wait, guys, they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. We might as well just pack it up right now, go home. It doesn't matter because they beat Alabama at Alabama." And no, like that's not how this works. The players for Oklahoma do not give a fuck that you beat Alabama in Alabama, and I think we match up evenly with you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, like the play on the field on Saturday is what matters. Like you just said, them beating Alabama doesn't matter. Come Saturday, Oklahoma's strength of schedule pre-Texas doesn't matter. So, I mean, we'll see. Texas has been favored in this game before and absolutely shit the bed. And Oklahoma's been in the favor going into this game before and shit the bed. So it just shows that doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter that they beat Bama at night in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma's has a good team in front of them. That is going to be a challenge, but I think they're up for it.
It's going to be a really good challenge. This is going to be a very, very fun game. They're a good Texas team. I think Oklahoma's right there. I think Oklahoma wins. I think Texas fans are going to be quite disappointed on Saturday.
What, outside of OU Texas, what is the most interesting game in the weekend for you?
Isn't Bama on the road at Texas A&M Saturday?
I know they're playing. I don't remember if they're on the road.
I think it's at Kyle Field. And for some reason, that game is interesting to me because Texas A&M is a bad football team, a team that got boat raced by Miami, who I think sucks. And if Texas A&M, imagine Texas A&M beating Alabama on Saturday. That just throws away everything for Texas beating Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, the Alabama win is going to age how it ages. I don't think Alabama's going to suck by any means. I just don't think it's the Alabama that they played against last year, where Bama scraped out a win at the end, and because they had a Heisman winner at quarterback. That's basically the biggest difference for Alabama. Heisman winner versus a guy that's never played at the collegiate level before. That aside for Texas, that is going to be an interesting game, because if Texas A&M pulls it out, those narratives about both for Texas for the Alabama win and for Alabama themselves, that's going to be an interesting narrative for the rest of the year, because they did have to battle Ole Miss. They ended up winning, but they did battle for a good portion of the game. And if they lose to A&M, who A&M hasn't looked good for a while, it might be. I mean, people are probably going to sound the alarms a little prematurely on Alabama and Nick Saban, but if you see a 9-win Alabama team, like I don't think that would be surprising this year because they do have some challenges ahead, and how they looked so far probably won't be in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I think Kentucky at Georgia is a comment here. That game's interesting. USC Arizona is interesting because Arizona is a team that, I think they're horrible. But like if you look at what they did against Washington last week, and I think Washington's a pretty good team, especially offensively. And Arizona held them to 31, they lost that game by a touchdown. I don't know what the spread on that game is, but just spoiler alert to Friday's episode where we do our picks, I'm going to pick Arizona at whatever the spread is or plus whatever it is because that Southern Cal defense is still that Southern Cal defense. It has not improved a lick. Actually, since Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley have been working together, I don't think that their defense has ever shown signs of improvement.
I agree. Who did Texas play in the bowl game last year? I'm trying to figure out. Oh, they played Washington. Wait. Did they? Who did Texas play in the bowl game last year?
Look it up. Yeah, they're saying they're 8-5. They were 7-5 in the regular season.
Yeah, they were 7-5 in the regular season. That's what I'm talking about, not the bowl game, because I don't even know who the fuck they played.
It was Washington. You're right. They beat Washington. Or no. Yeah, it was Washington, but they lost.
According to that, okay, you saw the same thing I did then.
They lost 27-20 to Washington. So they must have actually been 8-4 in the regular season, yeah.
Huh. All right, 2 games better. Correction, my bad. Okay, Mr. Daily Gaff. DG hasn't even played a full game this year. Has he? Also, as OU played a lot of second and third string players in these games. Thoughts? DG did play a full game against Iowa State, Cincinnati, SMU, and then the 2 that he didn't play a full game were the runaway wins.
Yeah, he didn't play the full game against Arkansas State, Tulsa, or this weekend.
Did he not finish the game?
Did he not finish? I thought JA got.
He might have. Yeah, I think Jackson came in the last couple series.
Yeah.
Okay, so he hasn't played a full game because they got enough of what they needed to win the game. But okay, that's kind of a weird point to make. OU has played a lot of second and third string players in these games. The Tulsa one, yeah, but I think all of their quarterbacks played that game. Cincinnati, they played the starter.
Snap, yeah.
Iowa State, they played the starter. Arkansas State, I'm sure they played the starter. It was the first game of the year, but that didn't fucking matter.
And defensively,
they played the starter.
Defensively, I think a lot of these guys, these second and third string he's going to be talking about, are guys that are they're just going to play a lot. Like I think that rotation, especially in the defensive back area, is just going to happen. I think you're going to get guys like Josiah Wagner getting snaps all season long. Guys like Jacoby Johnson might throw in there a little bit. Reggie Pearson is an interchangeable part of the safety room with Peyton Bowen and with Billy Bowman, and they're just going to have a lot of rotation there.
Yeah, Jared. Yeah, we talked about it earlier, and I think Jared Jones here, our other resident Texas fan, wasn't watching at that time. Yeah, if Jatavian Sanders is playing, I think he's definitely the much better tight end when you compare it to Oklahoma's. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough of Texas to know how they cover tight ends, but it's not like Austin Stogner is a real threat. And I know that Dasan McCullough is good at covering tight ends.
I just want to know why we have so many Texas fans watching this channel. Like, how'd you even find us, and why do you watch us?
I think it's because of the week. I know I've seen Rand before. I think he's more so like he likes to listen to stuff, but also kind of a troll, which is funny, but can get under our skin sometimes. Yeah, and then for the
Oklahoma has the better long snapper. Facts. I don't know if that's facts or not.
I don't know if that's factual. We haven't punted very much. Hasn't OU played a lot? Is it like against a lot of second and third stringers, or like we've put in a lot of second and third stringers. I'm assuming he's saying against, and I don't think that's factual. If Sanders does play, I think that right there for the offense is what makes it the interesting game. Because we know Oklahoma knows that they need a game plan for Worthy and Cook and who's the other wide receiver for Texas? So his last name also starts with a W. Oh
shit!
Adonai Mitchell, yeah, but I'm talking about the other one, the guy that's been there for a while, not a new transfer.
Hold on, I'll find it. I don't even know that nerd. I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name either.
Whittington.
That's Jordan
Whittington. I wanted to say Whittingham for some reason, but I knew that was wrong. Yeah, Whittington I think is like their version of Drake Stoops, where he's like he's the sure-handed guy when it comes to trying to get that first down for him on third downs or long second downs where they need those big plays just to move the chains.
If we can stop Javonte Cook and send our blitzes and play our coverage against them, we'll be just fine. And it's gonna happen.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else that we should talk about? Honestly, I think this has been a pretty good show.
It's been a fun show. I'm a little loose too. One. I mean, so you Texas week. It's
honestly as much as
the best week of the year.
As much as dumb shit as some of these Texas fans that are watching. I think it's been fun. I've missed it kind of brings me back to going to Dallas when we were in college and just bitching at each other.
If any of y'all are in Dallas Saturday, Katy Trail, I think that's the name of the place that I will be at with some people, good people. Come out to Katy Trail and I'll buy you a beer if you know who I am.
Yeah. If Sark wins, I'll send him a bottle of tequila for his pleasure.
Shit, if I see him on Saturday, I might just go to the set and be like, here you go, bud. You need this for the game.
Pre-game. He needs a pre-game to loosen up a little bit.
That guy is a drunk.
He is. That's factual. God bless Alex Grinch.
Couldn't agree more with that. Big facts. Stay there forever.
We all know Brandon's going to watch Miami versus Georgia Tech on Saturday night.
Go Yellow Jackets, baby.
OU played OU's second and third string. Oh, yeah. Oklahoma has put a lot of their second and third string guys. I don't know how that... Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that has happened a lot.
I do agree with Go Miami Dolphins. I am a diehard fish. Bad weekend for the Dolphins. I gotta say that.
We didn't talk about predictions. Farouk played 20 snaps in the slot against ISU. Yeah, I think it's because they're trying to put Nick Anderson in a lot. He really plays on the outside. Yeah, the depth. Yeah, that's what Texas fans were missing out on. They're just thinking about how they think no one's going to play for them. Go Miami Dolphins. They suck. Terrible game. Worst team in the AFC East.
1-3 in the NFL.
The predictions.
I like this.
We'll get to them in a second.
Yeah.
Grinch wears leather gimp suits for Tebow. Probably wears assless chaps too.
They do some weird shit. There's no doubt about it.
Got to get Anderson the ball more for
Couldn't
sure.
agree more. And I also think Jaden Gibson but I mean this game I think Brennan Thompson could be. I mean, how fun would it be for Brennan Thompson in this game specifically as a Texas transfer, to go up there and want to light those boys up because I mean he's so fucking fast. I mean if you just get him the ball and
even if he just catches like one or two and just becomes more of a distraction,
just get him the ball or have him run deep routes. Exactly, just put him on the field.
Brennan. He said this earlier. Brennan greater than Boosie Badass. I don't know. I think that might be a stretch, but for now, sure, why not? He's not. Boosie Badass is at A&M for now.
Boosie Badass, yeah.
99% of them go to the transfer portal because they still can't fucking win anything. Let me see here. Oklahoma versus Texas at this moment right now. Texas is a 6.5 point favorite.
Hammer it.
And the point total is 60.5.
Hammer both. I think it's going to be a game where let's go. I'm going to go 38-27 Oklahoma.
So I'm always going to pick Oklahoma, clearly, to cover the spread. Especially because I got it at 4.5. But the point total, I'm actually going to go with the under. I think both of these defenses are good. I wouldn't be surprised if it is like the point total ends up at the end of the game being like 59 or 60 points exactly, where you end up losing and over ends up losing just shy of a couple points. I'm going to take the under for this game because it is Red River. It's going to be more physical than we've seen in recent history, especially when it comes to scoring. I don't think scoring is going to be very hard earned. Those points aren't going to be easy to come by like they have been in the past. I'm going to go Oklahoma 32, Texas 28.
32-28 is an interesting score.
It is.
I've got 38-27.
We got to get one of those safeties.
Are you predicting back-to-back safeties on the show tonight?
Back-to-back safeties. If that's a bet, I'm going to put it. It's got to be like plus 10,000.
I can't wait, man. I cannot wait for Saturday.
Brennan Thompson, Slot Rocket, Grinch and Riley are definitely partners. I think.
Why else has he kept his job for so long? Like, because he's horrible.
I don't think they're partners. I think Grinch has some shit on Riley because it doesn't make sense. Now, I do think I'm gonna come here and play devil's advocate for Grinch. I think, at least for Oklahoma, at the end of the day, he didn't do an amazing job at actually making that defense better, but he made it better than it was because it was god awful. Yeah, I mean, it went from being like 125 out of 126 to like 80, which is his best that it seems like he can do. So it got better, just not amazing, not good enough to win anything. His tackling got worse, so that was worse. But he can't create turnovers.
Oklahoma's been one of the better open field tackling teams all season. That has to happen again. You have to concede you're going to give up some plays against Texas because they're a pretty solid offense. Make tackles in the open field. Don't give them extra yards per carry, yards per rush, yards per carry, yards per rush, yards per reception, yards per carry. When they get the ball, the first defender make the play. Little shit like that wins you games like this.
Yep. Okay, here's what we'll do. Whoever, go in the comment section because this is a live chat. So do me a favor. Go into the comment section. Give us your score predictions in this video. Whoever, if anyone gets it right, you will get a double entry because we're going to do a ticket giveaway for the UCF game. We'll get a double entry to the UCF game. And
fucking triple entry because if they get the score right, like that's hard to do. That's a
triple entry. Yeah, you got to get it right, and then the closest to the correct score will send you a free T-shirt. One of our Two Plane Sports T-shirts. I forgot to bring one with me, but they are in the link down below. If you guys want to get one of those T-shirts, we'd really appreciate it. You'd be supporting us. You'd be supporting a local business in Oklahoma and our friends Red Dirt T-shirts. Short sleeve is $24. Long sleeve is $27. If you want to prepare for the colder weather, you would get it if you ordered it here in the next week or so. Perfect timing for OU's next home game versus UCF. Again, links are in the description. Check them out. They come in like a whitish color, like what I'm wearing right now, and then a gray. And it's if you haven't seen them, again, link is in the description. You can see the design there. Anderson, 10 catches, 5 touchdowns. God, what I hope that
Mr. Dilligaff is dropping some shit that I hope comes true. I mean, not only that, but so he has Nick Anderson scoring all 5 touchdowns if you just base it off his score prediction. he has OU 38-20, so and 5 touchdowns for Nick Anderson. So I mean, hey, if that's how it plays out,
you get 1 field goal.
We get 1. That's how I see. I see 5 touchdowns and a field goal. I'm not predicting 5 Nick Anderson touchdowns, but again, if that's how if that's how it plays out, I mean they count the same.
I think at that point you got to put him up there with almost a first-round draft pick come next year's draft. Not like 2024 draft, but 2025 draft. Keaton, one of our longtime viewers here. Shout out
Keaton's
to Keaton.
The man. Shout out Keaton.
I think he said 28-30 or 27-38 Oklahoma. I think
BL is also a pretty long-time viewer. I just don't want to I don't want to fuck his name up, so I'm just going to call him BL.
Adjust the hat, going back to Grinch and Riley. Manderson with 5 touchdowns. I guess that's his new nickname, Manderson.
I'm okay with it.
Dane
That would be
Buckner's
fun to see.
LR's bottom slave. Whoa. Mike Stoops would call this game like Ohio State and Columbus. Or would call his gems, though, like the Ohio State and Columbus. Yeah, I guess. But then he would also call those gems like Ohio State at Norman.
Or he would call his gems like the OU Texas game that got him fired.
Yeah.
Where he gave up 100 points or whatever it was.
Oklahoma versus Oklahoma South.
He's been locked into that prediction the entire stream. And I want that to hit now.
34-27. Make sure you put your score predictions in the comment section. It's hard for us to go back through this live chat and figure out what you guys put. So comment section, ideal way, because then I can just scroll through. One of us can scroll through and check it out real quick. 30-24, Oklahoma. I think both of us are going to pick Oklahoma. AO Radio.
That would be the best thing ever. If Oklahoma wins this game 40-13 on Saturday, they're going to skyrocket to probably a top 5 team in the country, like legitimately, because I mean Texas is getting sucked off as if they are God's gift to earth, and if Oklahoma holds them to 13 while also putting up 40, they're gonna go up high.
Oh yeah, for sure. And AO Arizona said he's also in it, or AO Radio said he was in Arizona earlier. My bad.
Mr. Dillygaff, that's on us, bud. We're a little bit loose.
LOL, idiot. That's his stats on the year so far. Not saying that's what he gets. Now that makes sense.
Makes way more sense now. Maybe we should drink less when we do these. Mr. Dillygaff, we appreciate you calling us out, man. That's awesome. I'll toast that. This guy called us an idiot.
Toast to that. We were idiots. But we were asking for predictions, and he put them in context. You could see the mistake there. All right, I think
it's good to get called out like that.
I think that's what makes these streams great. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it there. We're in an hour and 22. Much longer than I thought we were going to go today for sure, but it was a blast. We're going to have to do one of these. We're going to do these drinking episodes more often.
They're more fun.
We're going to try to loop in our fat friend Brumbaugh to do these.
Fat ass nerd Brumbaugh. Shout out Brum. He's doing big shit. He's in Chicago right now on work doing whatever the fuck he does. Yeah, he's doing big things. Shout out Brum. He did text me. If anybody, here's an end of live stream chat because it's one of those if you know you know type situations. So Brum is in Chicago. I have Chicagoland roots. I used to go to Chicago every summer. So Brum texted me this morning at like 8 a.m. and said, "Dude, last night I did a shot of Malort. I don't understand why anybody does Malort shots. Hose is familiar with it from college, but now you also have access in Arizona because Arizona is Chicago of the West. But if anybody knows what a Malort shot is, / has done a Malort shot, and can speak to the just how awful it is, that's the end of video challenge. Because again, that's only if you know type situation because you can only get it pretty much in Chicago or Arizona.
And if someone ever tries to fool you into telling you that's good liquor, punch them in the face.
It's like drinking
like poop water.
Yeah, poop water is a good one. It's like lighter fluid. It's horrible.
I
imagine lighter fluid would taste like Malort does.
I think quickly they should become your worst enemy and your best friend all at the same time. Because no one should do that to someone.
We did have a college roommate. Again, if anybody in the chat is familiar with Malort, you'll understand how gross what I'm about to say is. But we had a roommate in college who I brought a bottle of Malort home from a Chicago visit that I went on, and I wanted the boys to try it and everything. And we had one of our roommates, John Lemon, love the guy to death, great guy. We used to do you remember when he would drink Malort on the rocks, just nothing else? He would just put some ice in a glass, fill it with Malort, and just sit on the couch and sip it.
Sometimes he did gross stuff like that.
It's brutal.
All right, well, let's call it.
I think Keaton knows. Oh, we got a couple people who know.
Yeah, Malort's fucking disgusting. Shout out you guys. You're the best for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. We're close to 6,000. I haven't checked if we got any subscribers. But if you don't, if you're already a subscriber, unsubscribe.
Help us get to 6.
And what you could help do to get to 6, share the video, share the live stream.
Wait, Keaton, is that facts? Which liquor
in
store?
VA has it.
Can you? Does it really? I need you to
All
drop
right.
that liquor store because I'm gonna buy a bottle.
Facts. To the AO radio part, not the buying a bottle. That sounds gross. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.